Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello, nerds! How are you? I want to say happy holidays. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate Christmas. I'm recording a special episode, an unscripted episode, and I'm curious to see how that's gonna go. I want to do an end of year review based on the post I shared on Instagram called 15 Questions to Reflect on 2021. So I really encourage you to also do this exercise. And I'm going to share my insights in the hope that inspires you to grab your journal, grab a pen, a blanket, light a candle, and write down your thoughts on the year that's just passed. So I turned off the lights, I lit up a candle, I'm sitting in my office in the dark. It's December 23rd in the evening of 2021. Ollie is gone climbing at the gym. He's going to come back in an hour and we're going to eat some fondue. So in the meantime, let's start with question number 1. Question number 1 is, what have you overcome this year? So this year is one I will remember forever because I decided to completely change my professional life. I used to be a graphic designer, freelance illustrator. I did all kinds of projects to try and figure out what would light me up inside. And in January of 2021, that's when I decided to jump fully into my passion of personal growth. I signed up to coach training and I started this podcast, The Self-Growth Nerds, and then announced my transition on Instagram. I used to be called Marie Draws the PCT on Instagram because I created lots of hiking content. But I realized along the way that, strange as it is to say, hiking is not a passion of mine. I love the outdoors, I love being in nature, but the reason I decided through hike the PCT was really to pursue a dream, to push my limits, to surprise myself, to see what I was capable of. And then once I came home, I was not interested in the technical aspects of hiking. I was interested in all the mindset stuff, how to overcome our limitations so that we can achieve impossible things. And I wanted to help people with that on a level that's much wider than just the hiking world. Of course, I still work with mostly outdoorsy folks, but I don't want to sit around talking about gear anymore. I want to talk about what's going on in our minds and how we can get out of our own way to create really purposeful, exciting lives. So I switched my Instagram to the Self-Growth Nerds and started creating content around mindset to help people pursue their dreams as well. I lost so many followers in the last year and gained so many new ones. And I keep picturing like a party where the conversations change. So some people think it gets boring and they leave, and then some new people come in because they love it. It lights them up. So I'm really happy about this renewal. And so while I was creating all this content for Instagram and for this podcast, I was learning to become a coach, learning to listen, learning to ask questions, learning to help others step onto their true path. And in April of 2021, I launched Brave and Bold. And we started in May with my first cohort for a 6 months journey. And in that 6-month journey, I had to overcome so much. And that goes back to the first question. I went on a bit of a timeline for you. But what did I have to overcome? I would say it was my imposter syndrome. On the weeks where I had lots of coaching calls, I felt so much resistance. I would literally have to drag myself from my bed to the shower, from the shower to the kitchen. And although I had practiced for hours and hours and hours in my training, now I had paying clients and I was putting so much pressure on myself. Before each call, I would have to sit and meditate and dance and journal and prepare because I was putting so much pressure on myself. I felt like a tap that you open to the maximum with the water running through it nonstop. And I loved it. I knew I loved it. But at the same time, it was taking all of my energy to show up to this new thing in front of these clients and to do my best. And part of me thought, what if I can't help them? Who am I if I can't help them? What am I worth if I can't help them? And that's where I realized I was making a mistake. It's okay to do your best. But it's not so okay to attach the result with your worth as a human being. And that leads me to question number 2. What are you most proud of? I'm most proud of the fact that I showed up. I showed up to all of the calls. Even though sometimes I felt like hiding in my bed. I would wash my face, I would show up, and I would do my best. And sometimes my best was not so good. And then other times I would surprise myself. But the thing is, the only way to improve and become really good at something is to show up and be crap at it first. And I don't think I was crap. I think I was okay. And that my clients were definitely better off with what I could help them with than without. But still, I know I have so much more. I knew I had so much more potential. But yes, what I'm most proud of is that I kept showing up no matter how vulnerable it felt. I was a beginner. And being a beginner is scary. Feels like you're naked and you open yourself up to criticism. And I asked for feedback from my clients, from my peers, and feedback hurts sometimes. But I kept reminding myself that I was there to improve, that I didn't need to be perfect, I just needed to be open to improvement. So let's go to question number 3. In what ways have you surprised yourself? I'm surprised at how fast I learned. I'm not a fast learner in general. There's so many things that people are going to explain to me that I kind of understand in the moment, but it kind of goes through my brain and out the other way. But when it came to coaching, I'm a sponge. I got coached many hours. I watched hundreds of hours of coaching, and I coached my clients for so many hours as well. And now it's starting to feel natural, and I'm turning into an amazing coach. I'm surprised at how much I've improved in 1 year and excited to see how I'm going to keep developing. It's starting to feel like flow, like it's natural. Like I just have to trust myself and the questions that come into my brain. And when I let it all come out like a wave, that's when the sessions are most magical. That's when I connect most deeply with my clients. When I just trust the magic. And that's just because of all the hours that are behind me. There's this thing called implicit learning, where you're not explicitly thinking about what you have to say. You just know. You have a sense of inner knowing that comes from all the baggage, all the hours I've invested. They show up like, it feels like magic in the moment. And I love that. And now, my coaching sessions are not draining at all anymore. They were in the beginning because it was new. Because whenever you start doing something new, it's awkward, right? And also because I was having all these intrusive thoughts that I mentioned earlier about how perfect I needed to be. But now that I've let that go, now that I've coached many clients, it's the opposite. It sparks my fire. And after every coaching sessions now, I'm like full of energy and ready for anything. And I feel so in love with my clients and with my work and with my life. Okay, so let's go to question number 4. I hope you're enjoying this personal review. Question number 4 is, what have you learned about yourself that you didn't know before? I'd say I knew that I was impatient. But I saw it as a flaw rather than a strength. And in 2021, I started seeing it as something amazing about me. Out of my coach training, I'm the one that started working the fastest. I hit the ground running. I was ready before I started the training. I was just looking forward to being in the thick of it. I didn't want to be sitting in class anymore. I wanted to be in action, because there's so much you can learn. At one point, you need to jump into it. And I felt bad about it. Like ashamed a little bit. Like there was a part of me that was like, who do you think you are? You're so impatient. Slow down. Take your time. But I didn't want to take my time. I was so excited. I had big dreams. I wanted to get started now. And I managed to release that shame when someone said to me, what if you were the expert of your own journey? What if you didn't need to compare yourself to other people and their rhythm? Let them do their own thing without making it mean anything about you. Yes, you might make mistakes. Yes, you might overlook things. Yes, you might not be doing everything perfectly, but you're the expert of your own journey. You are going to learn in your own way. There's not one way to do this thing. It's your adventure. Question number 5. What do you wish you had said no to? One thing I learned in 2021 is the gift of simplicity, simplifying your life to the maximum so that you have a clear mind, so that you have one path to follow. And my one path to follow right now is brave and bold coaching. So what I wish I said no to is there were a few projects here and there that I did to please the other people. And I knew when I said yes that I was not actually feeling it in my core. I just didn't want to disappoint. But I'm over that now. I've felt the heaviness of moving through projects that I didn't honestly choose. And I didn't like who I was. I wasn't fully there. So I don't want to do that again. It is not kind to me and it is not kind to the other person. Because while you do it to please the other person, you don't really please the other person because you're only half there. You only bring half of you, or maybe even less. You only bring a quarter of you to the project, to the person. And I think that's worse than saying no to begin with. So some of these projects I carried to the end, and some of them I bailed out of. But I've definitely learned my mistake, and I'm going to do my best not to repeat that in 2022. Now, question number 6. What happened that you did not expect? Okay, yes. What happened that you did not expect? I got a call at the beginning of the year from a person I'd met a year prior in a park. He was a friend of a friend who is a creative director. And he asked me if I wanted to be in a film shoot for an outdoor brand. And at first I was like, no, I don't have time for this. I was preparing Brave and Bold. I don't have time for this. He said, okay. And then he called me back and he was like, are you sure? Are you sure? Because, this is well paid and it's going to be really fun. And I think you would really enjoy it. So I let myself consider it. And I ended up saying yes. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I went to spend a week on a mountain with a team of creative, outdoorsy people. They put really high quality gear on me. We went out into the forest and did all kinds of sports, fat biking, trail running, hiking. They were shooting me with their cameras. I had to pretend to hike while I had to hike, pretend I was alone when I had a camera 2 feet from my face, and I had to be careful not to hike too fast so that I would hit the lens with my face. We laughed so much, they asked me to tell them all of my PCT poop stories so that I'd be smiling on camera. So yeah, that was pretty memorable. Which brings me to question number 7. What were your most memorable moments? That was definitely one of them. I would also say all of the time I spent with my nephews. One specific moment comes to mind where they have a little, it's kind of like a Westphalia van made out of, what do you call it? It's not a real van. It's made out of fabric. It's like a tent that you put up in the backyard. And it was my birthday. There was lots of balloons, purple balloons, and we put all the purple balloons in the van, and we were just sitting in the van playing with the balloons and laughing really loud and trying to burst them. And it was just pure joy. So that moment comes to mind as one of the most carefree, magical moments. Another memorable moment is when I opened up Brave and Bold again for the second time. I really wanted to gather 10 nature-loving nerds. That was like my ideal number. And I believed all the way to the end. And that's exactly what I got. 10 wonderful human beings. And I was so proud of me. So proud of believing that it was possible. So proud of having that vision for those people that I wanted to bring into the program. I held that vision and I worked so hard on defining exactly the kind of people I wanted to jump into the adventure with me. And it turns out they're exactly how I'd imagined. Even better. All right, question number 8. What were your most challenging times? I think I pretty much covered that earlier in the episode. My most challenging times were all mental. Being a beginner, that's what was most challenging. And also, which I didn't mention, taking myself seriously. Taking my business seriously. So I had to go from being someone who likes projects, I'm just dabbling, I'm just trying things, hopping from one project to the other, to no, I'm a business owner now. And I have big ambitions, big dreams, and I take those seriously. That was challenging. It was an identity shift, right? Now I have to think differently. I have to think like a business owner, which ties really well with question number 9. What were your most meaningful adventures? So most of you are going to have probably outdoorsy adventures to share. And I guess I have one. In August, I went on a cycling trip, my first cycling trip with Ollie. It was 4 days. It was a lot more fun than I'd imagined. We carried the tent we had on the PCT and had a good time. That being said, my most meaningful adventure is my business adventure. And whenever people ask me like, oh, do you have a long hike planned anytime soon? And the answer is always no, because to me, that's what I'm doing right now with Brave and Bold, with Self-Growth Nerds, is an adventure in itself, is a quest in itself that fulfills me in the same kind of way. That fulfills me in the same kind of way that through hiking did. I have a clear direction. I have a simple path. I have obstacles on the way. I have a mission that I really care about. So that's my most meaningful adventure right now. So I'm definitely going to make time to go outside, to go traveling. But these are bonuses on the side, like side trips, where my main trip is what I'm doing every day, which to me is ideal, right? And that's what I want to recreate, help my clients recreate. Because that way, you're not looking forward to the weekend. You're not looking forward to your holidays as much. Because you love your Monday to Friday so much. I'm really grateful for that. And that's what I want to help others create. And that doesn't necessarily mean having a business. Not at all. It's having a mission within what you do for work. And not necessarily even what you do for work. For some people, work is just a means to an end, right? That allows them to have a meaningful mission outside of work. That might be a creative side project, for example, that they're excited to get to after work. Like Elizabeth Gilbert, I think, said, treat your side project as like a lover, like a mistress that you're just always thinking about, and it makes everything a bit better. If you, for example, are writing a book, maybe your day job is going to be much more bearable, because while you're at your day job, you think about the story you're writing, and then you're like excited to get home afterwards to keep writing. Just as long as there's a meaningful pursuit in your daily life, and that you're not just looking forward to an adventure that's coming up in a few months. See what I mean? Anyway, let's go to question number 10. Who do you most want to thank and why? 3 people come to mind. Well, first, my partner for supporting me 100% in that shift. Second, I'm thinking of my parents. So that's not one person, 2 people, 1 unit. My parents for instilling in me the love of entrepreneurship, but I think it goes way beyond that. They instilled in me a belief in magical possibilities. My dad is so optimistic, and they've gone through so many challenges throughout their life, but he's always had a mindset where we're going to find a way. And whenever you ask him, how are you doing? He goes, A1, even though he's having a hard day, A1. And always, looking for the best everywhere. And I love that about them. So I want to thank my parents. And lastly, I want to thank my friend Laurence, who I approached at the end of 2020 with an idea for a project. And she jumped in and said yes. And that project has allowed us to create passive income for the 2 of us. That made it possible for me to make a much more stable transition towards a new career. So I want to thank her for believing in my idea and wanting to try something with me. Thank you for jumping in. All right, question number 11. Who did you connect with most deeply? Well, for this one, I want to say my clients, because that's one thing I learned. Being present, being so present in my coaching calls, and believing fully in their capabilities, in their dreams, believing often more than they believe in themselves. And that feeling of connection is so powerful. It almost feels like meditation. When you're so present and focused on the other person, you completely forget about your life. That's been really healing for me in the last few months. Number 12. Who surprised you the most and why? Oh, I'm going to have to say my sister-in-law and one of my closest friends, Jen, because they are both moms and they make it look so fun and easy. My sister-in-law now has 2 boys and my friend Jen has a baby, and I'm surprised at how easygoing they are and how high their tolerance for chaos is. I'm starting to think that that's what you need to be a parent, a high tolerance for chaos. Even a capacity to embrace chaos. You let me know, those of you who are parents, if I'm getting it right, but it seems to be the more you can embrace chaos, the more you can smile through chaos, the better you are. The better off you are, the most relaxed you are as a parent. All right, question number 13. Who did you look up to and learn from, and why? 2 people come to mind. First off, I'll have to say Marie-Pier, who is one of my mentors. She's a very successful woman, but also she has chronic pain and chronic mental illness, and she shows us what it's like to be a human being with the mess that this includes, and to be a successful woman as well. That is so inspiring to me. Basically, what she's saying is you can be who you are. You don't need to be perfect. And you know how important that is to me. You don't need to be perfect, and you can be as successful as you want to be. Just accepting yourself. So I look up to Mariah for this, definitely. And I'll also say Brooke Castillo, who is the founder of the Life Coach School. She goes straight to the point. She's a no-nonsense kind of coach. She's not going to pet you. What's the expression? Maybe it doesn't exist in English, but pet you the way your hair goes. She just like puts her finger on your dream and calls you out on all of your bullshit, all of the bullshit you put in your own way. But she does so with a lot of compassion as well. She's very direct, and I look up to that for sure. It's not for everyone, but there is a part of me who's very blunt and who's like, no, we don't have time for this. Let's figure out what you really want to do and not waste any time on your excuses. Let's spend time believing in magic, believing that it's possible, and then figuring out how we make it happen. And there's a lot of Brooke Castillo in that. All right, question 14. How did you feel? And now there's 7 categories. How did you feel in your home, workplace, nature, relationships, body, mind, and soul? So I'm going to do it like rapid fire kind of thing. How did I feel in my home? It felt like a refuge. There's so much light in my home, and Ollie is the master of ambiance. He likes to turn the lights off, turn on candles, and it always feels so cozy. And sometimes he comes back home when I'm alone and all the lights are on. He turns them all off, lights some candles. And so, yeah, he helps make it feel like super cozy and welcoming. How did I feel in my workplace? Okay, so this was a journey throughout the year, because right now I have a really great office at the front of our apartment, and there's a lot of light and spaciousness, and I feel super lighthearted and focused. But we started the year being both in the same room, Ollie and I, but Ollie likes to play video games, and whenever he played video games next to me, it was like messing with my energy and focus. So I went in the guest room at the back, but the guest room is so dark. And light is so important to me. I was annoyed, but I didn't want to change everything again. But eventually I did. And that was the best decision. My office feels like home to me now. I have all my personal growth books behind me. I have a view on the park. I have art that I love. So yeah, at home and inspired. How did I feel in nature? That was not so rapid fire, was it? How did I feel in nature? Must say I didn't spend a lot of time in nature this year. What I mostly did, I guess last summer I went kayaking almost every day. And I would kayak and then stop and then lie back down on my kayak and put my arms in the water, and I felt at oneness. Just felt at one. Yeah. How did I feel in my relationships? I would say evolving. There was so many new relationships this year. And it was a constant sense of evolution. In my body, the first word that came to mind was slightly disconnected. I've been in my mind so much, and it's probably the year where I've done the least physical activity, so slightly disconnected. But what I'm focusing on, what I'm learning is gentleness. So treating my body with gentleness, like washing my face and like taking a bath and taking those sacred moments for me to shower myself with a bit of softness, I guess. How have I felt in my mind? I would say eager, hectic, inspired, hyperactive. Yeah, I think hyperactive is the best word. It was like, if my mind was a room this year, it would have been like full of people coming in and out and being inspired and making some drama and crying and coming up with another idea. And that's what it felt like. And finally, how did I feel in my soul? I felt so fully aligned. I tasted the sweetness of pure alignment the same way I did when I was on the PCT. With thoughts like, oh my God, I feel so content I could die right now. This is exactly where I want to be. And this feeling takes over your whole being. And once you taste that, it's very hard to go back. Like, I never once this year wanted to go back to my previous life. Never once, even though it was easier. Even though my previous life was easier. I never wanted to go back there because even though like this new adventure is very, very challenging, in between the challenges, I can feel this alignment that I want to tap into as much as possible for the rest of my life. Because that's when I feel most alive. So I definitely encourage you to think about the moments where you felt most aligned and to consider how you could recreate that. How you could recreate that in your daily life. And you don't need to come up with an answer right away. Just start thinking about it. What would your life look like if you were in pure alignment, if you were your best, most alive self on a Wednesday morning? And the reason why I say on a Wednesday morning is because I don't want your moments of pure alignment to happen twice a year. I want them to be part of your routine, be part of your ordinary. One of my clients, my previous clients, she was very unhappy in her job. And she said like, I think back to when I was homeschooled. And that's when I was most myself. I would like wake up every day and be really excited to learn new things and to learn these things like in a way that worked for me. And then she said, I wonder how I could recreate this homeschool life now. And I thought that was such a powerful question. How could she bring the qualities of that homeschool life into her day-to-day? How can she change the shape of her day-to-day so that it feels a little more like that time? All right, so question number 15, the last question. I think this is going to be a really long episode. What are the creations that left a mark on your heart? So books, movies, series, shows, podcasts, songs. I think the book that was most impactful for me this year was We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers. So I did an episode about this book. I really recommend going to listen to it. I devoured this book. Rachel Rogers talks about how more money equals more impact, and how if we want to change the world, if we want to fix our broken systems or create new, better ones, we need more money in the hands of good people. And in terms of fiction, I think my most memorable read is The First 10 Years, Two Sides of the Same Love Story, by Meg Bashwiner and Joseph Fink. So Joseph Fink is the creator of the podcast Welcome to Night Vale, which I haven't listened to, but apparently is amazing. And this little book with two funny squirrels on the cover is the first 10 years of their love story. So it's kind of like a memoir, but you go through year 1, year 2, year 3, and you read each of their perspectives. And they wrote the book without talking to each other, and it's so sweet. And also, like, you are into this universe with creative people who go from like broke, living in like a 1-room flat in New York. Oh, I said flat. That's the British in me. This 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, I think, to having like a proper home in the Hudson Valley. And you go through their struggles, and it's so sweet. So sweet. And it's an not unlikely, but unusual love story. So We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers, and The First 10 Years by Meg Bashwiner and Joseph Fink. What about movies and series? Let's see. It's funny because the first movie that came to mind is Call Me By Your Name, but that was like 3 years ago. Get over it, Marie, get over it. I don't know if any movies captured my heart in the same way since. Probably. Okay, let me just give you movies that I enjoyed. I loved Cruella. Went to see it on my own at the movies, and I loved it. It was so fun. I cried my eyes out with Ollie watching the movie Our Friend. What else? Okay, so I paused the recording and I Googled the best movies in TV of 2021 and found an article. It's like movies and TV picked by NPR critics. So let's see. What have I seen? Oh, Made. The TV series Made was so freaking infuriating and good. Haven't seen that. I'm really excited to see King Richard's about Venus and Serena Williams with Will Smith, but I haven't seen it yet. Oh, Dune was pretty good. I'm also really excited to see Come On, Come On with Joaquin Phoenix. That's from my favorite director, Mike Mills, who created Beginners, one of my all-time favorite movies. Mike Mills is an artist as well as a graphic designer, and we can definitely feel that in his movies, which I love. Gives them a unique taste. Yeah, that's it. I don't think I have a massive crush on any 2021 movies. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Language Lessons by Mark Duplass, I think. Language Lessons. No, it's Mark Duplass and someone else. What's her name? Natalie Morales. It's on Zoom. It's not on Zoom, but it's as if it's on Zoom. And it's the story of a guy whose husband gives him 100 Spanish lessons for his birthday. And so he meets with Natalie Morales. It's Mark Duplass meets with Natalie Morales for the first lesson. And then the next day or the next week, his husband dies. But he keeps meeting with her, and she becomes a friend, and she helps him through his grief But this all happens through like Zoom and an exchange of little videos. So it's very original. It's only 2 people, and the magic is all in the conversations and in the connection. And it's so tender and funny and quirky. So yeah, that is the same kind of quirkiness that I enjoyed from the first 10 years, the book I was telling you about. Okay, so let's go back. Shows. Haven't seen any shows. Have I? No. Podcasts. Oh, I absolutely adore Simone Grace Seol, who is a life coach from Korea. She has a podcast called Joyful Marketing for life coaches. So if you're not a life coach, not very relevant for you, but if you have a business though, very relevant. She has ADHD, and she talks about how to market by just being your neurodivergent self. Similar to what I was telling you about Mariah Cause, they are 2 people who are very successful businesswomen, but also just embrace the messiness of being human. And I think we need so much more of that. So instead of like bro marketing, human marketing. And what does that feel like? It feels so much more honest and humble. And that's the kind of world I want to help create. So we're creating services for others, but we're not pushing it down anyone's throat. We're just welcoming people into our universe and letting people who want to join us whenever they're ready. And I think that's amazing. So lastly, we have songs. So I'm going to admit something to you. I've never been much of a music person. Okay, what I usually do is I get stuck on a song that I like for months. For months. Or like an artist that I like for years. I've been on Sufjan Stevens for like 10 years. But this year, I think the most listened songs on my Spotify were This Must Be the Place by, I forget their name, The Talking Heads. And like 10 years ago, people told me about The Talking Heads and I was like, nah, I'm not interested. But this year I've listened to that song so often and all kinds of versions of it. And also, This Is the Day by The. And lastly, I love going back to the song at the end of Captain Fantastic, the movie, where they're singing around the fire. It's Sweet Child of Mine, but the Viggo Mortensen version, so sweet. So that's it for today. That was a very personal episode. I hope you got something out of it. I wish you some very sweet and lovely holidays. Don't listen to all of what your brain has to say. Remember that so many of the thoughts you have are optional, and you can just tell your brain, I'm on holiday right now. I don't want to argue with you. I don't want to listen to those mean things you have to say. I just want to watch a movie. I just want to lie in that blanket reading a book. I just want to be with my loved ones. Just please give me a little break. And don't push your thoughts away, but just maybe ask your brain for a pause. Just turning the volume down on the 24/7 radio that our thoughts are. All right. I hope you enjoyed all of these episodes. It's the first year of the podcast, not officially yet. I'm so thankful that you're here, that you listen every week. It's so surreal to me to imagine that there are people all over the world who tune in to listen to my voice, who find value in what I bring. That goes straight to my heart, and I'm excited for another year of this. And I'm all tell you more about my vision for 2022, but for now, I just want to say that I want us to feel closer this year. So I want to come up with a way for you to be able to reach out to me after the episodes and share your thoughts and share your insights. Maybe an inbox specifically for the self-growth nerds. We'll see. But for now, happy holidays. And one special thought for those of you who don't have time off, who keep working while everyone is enjoying their holidays. You are also very important. I see you. I know it must be challenging. And thank you for being who you are and for doing this important work. So all of you cashiers, nurses, and I'm sure there's so many more, a special thought for you and lots of love to everyone. All right. Bye-bye. You just listened to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. Make sure to subscribe and to find me on Instagram at Self-Growth Nerds. If you want individual help developing the confidence to create a more meaningful and exciting life, visit selfgrowthnerds.com today to learn how. Finally, I want to thank my friend Etienne Galano for editing this, and I want to thank you, kind-hearted souls, for growing into your truest, most courageous selves every day and making this world a better, more beautiful place. My name is Marie, and I will talk to you next week.